The Digimon trading card game is truly an interesting place when it comes to the player base and when it comes to Burnout. The BT7 set extension, basically, because of delays for BT8, really caused people to react in an interesting fashion, because a lot of people didn't like a lot of BT7. People didn't like it at all. Before I get into the video here, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, smash potatoes. That way you know when all these amazing Digimon videos go live. And do let me know what you think about the BT7 or BT8 delay. Did you start playing BT8, or are you still on the BT7 hype train? Or are you even playing a future format now? Let me know in the comments, because let me tell you, people were not impressed. We have so many tournaments that started at the start of the month here where people exclusively printed out proxies and played BT8 exclusively. They didn't even touch BT7 anymore. People were just done with BT7. I think people were sick of blue hybrid and yellow hybrid, and people just didn't want it anymore. People were just pissed off with the format. Which, I mean, blue hybrid's pretty boring. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that at all. It's pretty degenerate. Now, that being said, we need to compare this to a few different case studies to see whether or not this is true to BT7 format or if this is just always the case. So let's start with BT5. BT5 had a similar issue where BT6 was delayed. So BT6 was delayed basically a month, right? So we had BT5 for an additional month. However, despite what people said about Lord Nightmon and their objections, people were still playing BT5 up until the day of BT6 release. And to be fair, a lot of people hated Lord Nightmon, but a lot of people liked Lord Nightmon too. I don't think it had the same rep that Blue Hybrid has with BT7, so people continued to play the format. They just did. Some people dropped off, sure, that's fine, but it wasn't any crazy number like BT7 is dropping off. BT5 definitely was a little more of a successful format than BT7 in that regard. But now, since Digimon is still very fresh and very new, we have to compare to other card games. We won't talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Has like side sets and starter decks that come out and other stuff. You know, it's not just core sets. So the game truly doesn't have a moment to actually burn out, per se, because there's always new cards to play with. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't count. Yu-Gi-Oh! Just keeps pumping out product. People keep buying it and people are enjoying the game. Okay, let's talk about Pokemon. Pokemon is very much like Digimon. They only have a set release every 2 to 3 months. Actually. And besides the odd promo card here and there, they don't really do side sets. Unless it's some special, like, Hidden Fates or Shining Fates type of side set. Which is basically just a collector set anyway, with the odd, occasional competitive card in there. And people do not get burned out on Pokemon, from my experience playing the game. People seem to really just like playing Pokemon. And they like playing Pokemon up until the new set comes out. I think the reason for this is because there are so many viable decks in Pokemon that it's really hard to, you know, just say, oh, I don't want to play against this anymore. I think the most derogative deck in a long while was ADP. Not a Delicate Plan, nuh-uh, but Arceus Dialga Palkia. That deck was in the format for around a year until it got rotated out, and people did get annoyed against playing that deck. However, that didn't stop people from playing in Pokemon Standard. It did not stop them at all. You know, and there were new decks coming out, new things for people to try, and even in other Pokemon formats where there wasn't such a crazy deck, you know, people didn't mind playing the game until the next set because it was just, you know, there was always stuff to try, always stuff to figure out, and different decks you could try to play with. It's that simple. So being in a similar situation like Digimon, no burnout. No burnout. Interesting, eh? The only other animal we can compare this to is Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is also in an interesting spot. We'll take the standard format, for instance. The standard format of Magic the Gathering works very similarly to the standard format of Digimon or Pokemon, where you get your main set, and then unless you get the odd little thing in the middle or elsewhere, you know, you're waiting for the next core set. And people, you know, are okay with it, to be honest. While Standard maybe isn't the biggest format in Magic the Gathering, people still play it until the next set, and they don't get burned out. And if we take Standard aside and talk about Modern or Legacy or Vintage, you know, those are formats where the same decks have just consistently been played year after year after year after year. with the slight variation maybe in card pool based on other cards that come out. Like those formats continue to see play. Nobody really gets burned out. And people do get burned out, well, then they just swap to a different format. They come back to that format when they're ready. You know what I mean? That's Magic the Gathering for you. You know, people spend a lot of money on Magic the Gathering, which kind of makes sense that they don't get burnt out, because if they're spending, a lot of freaking money on a legacy or vintage deck, they're not as tempted to get burnt out. Why? Because they want to make the most of their investment in the card game. I think it's really as simple as that. So Magic has the occasional period of burnout, but as a whole, no. So why is Digimon so special? Why did the Digimon community just basically say, you know what, fuck BT7, I'm done with it. BT8, let's just print out some sheets of paper and go for it. Why was the Digimon community like that in such massive numbers? I do think there are multiple reasons for this. One, the format sucks. Control decks are annoying. They are. I'm not a control player. I hate control decks. And a lot of people are in the similar boat. Cool. Next, BT8 looks legitimately like a fun format. Like, actually fun. All the new archetypes getting support, all the new mechanics, dual color cards. Creativity goes out the window here in BT8. I think people are really excited to just get their hands dirty and see what they can pull off. So then that has to do with it. BT7 is so boring and linear compared to BT8, which is much more cracked open. That's reason number 2. And reason number 3 is because the game is still young. The card pool is still young. It's only 7 sets in and 8 sets in by the time friggin' BT8 comes out in English. There's not a lot of cards to work with. There isn't enough of a card pool to be super creative with the game. Maybe freaking 5 years down the road, if we have a format that gets stale like BT7 and, the format's delayed, people can maybe go back into their older card pools and try some new techs or try some new decks as a whole, new ideas, new combos. It's very, very possible that's a thing. We just don't have that option right now in BT7 because, again, we're only 7 sets in. There's not a lot to work with. And I guess as a side reason, people are really annoyed with the shipping delays, but that's nobody's fault. And other card games are experiencing these issues, hit or miss, in other areas. So I don't think that we can rely on shipping as an excuse for this. But I do know that the shipping delays do cause some salt with some Digimon players. And again, nobody really cares because people just want to play Digimon. People just want to play Digimon, guys. People just want to play the game. They really do. And they're willing to just say, you know what? BT7 is an unenjoyable experience. Pretty boring. Pretty mundane. It's like staring at a chalkboard or a whiteboard or a brick wall or a tree. You get no real interaction with that. I think people feel that way about BT7 format, but people are so interested in playing Digimon as a whole that they're willing to put their BT7 cards down and play with sheets of paper with ink, hopefully colored ink, and just throwing down and playing some fun Digimon. I think that's really cool. I think it is a healthy sign for the game that people are willing to play a set in advance. Yeah, sure. This is a pretty stale format. I think that Bandai kind of dropped the ball in this format, if you want my honest opinion. But that being said, people got stronger out of it. People had creative ideas out of it. And now we have a community where people are willing to print things off and play the game, which is really cool. Now, for the record, I don't think that's going to happen with BT9 and EX02. Because don't forget, we actually get the EX2 side set in between BT8 and BT9 now. So we're probably going to get that 6 weeks to 8 weeks after BT8 comes out. So there won't really be that burnout period. Then after EX2, probably 6 to 8 weeks later, we're going to get BT9. So we'll revisit this when BT9 comes out and BT9 is out. If we are playing BT9 format and people aren't enjoying it and there happens to be a shipping delay at that point for BT10, we'll cross this bridge when we get there. But until then, despite the format being dry AF, I think this is a really healthy spot for the community to be in. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Bye.